Hi, kindergarten, first and second grade leaders. We're preparing for February 28th in our new series called Because He Lives. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at the week before Jesus' death and resurrection and walking through all of the activities that happened that week to help kids understand what Holy Week is and to also help them understand some of the significance of the things that Jesus went through that week was to fulfill prophecy. And our lesson today about the Triumphant Entry is one of those prophecy things that had to happen. Jesus had to ride in on a donkey because Isaiah said this was going to happen. And so, in Zechariah, I'm sorry, I misspoke, not Isaiah, in Zechariah, God had led Zechariah to know that Jesus, the king, the earthly king, would be humble and riding on a donkey. And a donkey was significant because donkeys were not considered royal animals. And so even though the people cheered and were excited, they would not have thought that because he was on a donkey, he was the earthly king. And so that is your story for today, the Triumphant Entry. And I'm assuming most of you know this. This is when Jesus told his disciples to go get the donkey. And we typically call it Palm Sunday. And that was when Jesus rode into town on the donkey and everybody cheered and laid their blankets in front of him. I like to think of Aladdin, where Prince Ali is coming in to meet Jasmine for the first time. It was kind of that kind of processional through town where everybody cheered and it was excited that the earthly king was coming to rescue them, not realizing all of the other things that happened that week that proved he was a different kind of king than they were expecting. And so in your small group time, you have a couple things. First off, know that you have your Roku has your large group teaching on it. It also has some fun games on there if you would like to use those, especially as kids are coming in. Then we have two options for you for your social game. And I do encourage you to try to play one of these games. And I gave you two because I know each of you as a leader like to do different kinds of things. And so every week throughout the series, you will have both of these activities. One of them is called a right-left Easter game. And I don't know if you've ever played a game like this, but every group has a large egg filled with some prizes. And you're going to have the kids sit in a circle, and every time you say the word right, they're going to pass the egg to the right. And every time you say the word left, they're going to pass the egg to the left until you get to the end of the story. And the person holding the egg at the end, we need to keep the eggs, but the prizes on the inside, they can either share with their class or they can take all the prizes for themselves. And you can decide that as a small group leader. The other activity, you have some bunny feet. Because what's Easter without some bunnies around here, right? And I know it's not about the bunny, Christy. But you also have a ring toss. And so if you wanted to, you could split up your group and part of the group could play the right-left game and part of them could play the ring toss. However you want to do that, as long as you have the space and possibly some help to make that happen, you are welcome to do that. So the bunny feet are for you to mark where they need to stand so that they can throw the rings onto the bunny ears, which will be sitting on a cone, trying to stabilize the bunny ears a little bit. Please hold on to everything except for the candy or whatever prize is in your egg. We need to recycle these and use them every week that we can possibly use them. So It's really just to create a fun experience for kids. In fact, I heard this week from one kid who has been with us for only 3 weeks come out of church and get so excited to share with her grandma all of the things that she got to be a part of that day and how cool it is to be a part of this church, because these are the things she gets to be a part of when she's a part of Parkway. And so that made me feel very excited to know that she got it, and she was even so excited about it that she was willing to talk to her grandma about that as she was leaving. And so please try to do some of those activities. The other activity you have, here's a sample. You are going to make some palm branches, and we've already cut most of the hands for you. There's enough there for each kid to have 6 hands, and if that's all the hands you want to put on there, that should be plenty. But there's also some extra paper there that you can draw around their hand and help them cut it out, or your teen helper can help you cut it out. Then I used double-sided tape to tape each hand on there individually. And you're going to want to do that so that it's a little bit more sturdy. If you just put one strip of double-sided tape on there, likely they're going to lose their hands before they walk out of the door. So this activity may take a little bit of time, but that's okay. There's no rush. We've got plenty to do, and while you're doing that, you can go through some of your discussion questions. Your discussion questions are really good for this lesson, actually, and I would highly recommend that you definitely hit on the last 3 questions and get kids to think about what it is that was exciting to the people when Jesus entered and what I would even turn this a little bit. If I'm sitting in your group and I said this question, I would come back to them and say, what kind of king would you want? What kind of king would you, ask each of the kids to tell what kind of king they would want. And you're going to be amazed at all of the different stories you're going to hear on this. Some of them may try to repeat what somebody else has said, but get them to try to really think about what kind of king do I really want? Because those are the kind of things that they are going to attach to as they get to know God. God is going to become more and more like that person, or like that king that they want, or less like that king, depending upon where they are on what they want their king to be like. And so this could be a really fun question as you help guide them into shaping their view of who God is and his grandness in his being. And then you could also talk about worship. This is a great time for us to talk about how we respond. And in this time, they used palm branches and their coats and everything. But how do we respond when we are so excited about God and we want to show him how much he means to us? How do we respond? Because it's not just in song. In fact, nobody that I know of naturally bursts out in song when they're really excited. Well, I know 2 people, my sister and my son, but they sing all the time. And so, but most people do not automatically burst out in song. There are other ways that we express our worship to God. And so this would be a really great question as well. And then the last one, why do you think some people reject Jesus? And I would imagine most of our kids have had somebody in their life tell them that they don't believe in this Jesus dude. And so that would be a really great way to have that conversation as well. Your key passage is Philippians 2:8, and we've made you a little puzzle. And so as you can get the kids to put the puzzle together, read it, and then focus on the highlighted words that are a part of your leader guide. And so that should get you through this lesson this week. I know it's a whole lot of activities. You don't have to do every single one of them. Please do at least one of the social activities. You don't have to do the games that are on the Roku. We put a lot of extra things in this series, because we're finding in between the 9:30 and the 11 o'clock service, we have kids staying with us, and this would give them something to do during that time, okay? So use that as a transition game. That's just an extra bonus, not a have-to thing to do. So do one of those games and help them make their palm branches. And as they're making their palm branches, you can have your discussion questions. If you get to the key passage, that's great. If you don't, I'm sure that they will get to it at some point within this series. I love you guys. Thank you so much for leading. It has been so fun to see kids take their next step and be excited about what they're learning at Parkway. And you're a part of that team that makes that happen. I'll see you guys soon.